Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of A New Life in Italy. I'm your host, Samantha Wilson, and today we're diving into a crucial aspect of your move to Italy, and one that could significantly impact your budget, and that is currency exchange. Moving to Italy isn't just about packing your bags and booking your flights. It's also about smart financial planning, particularly how you handle the shift from your home currency to the euro. And if there are any of my Canadian or Australian friends out there, you know that currency exchange can be a real killer. So whether you are buying property, planning your living expenses in Italy, or simply preparing for the cost of the move, understanding the best practices for currency exchange can save you a lot of money. So in this episode, we are going to explore the ins and the outs of currency exchange, offer practical advice on how to plan ahead when the rates are good so that you can save a lot of money in the long run. And we're going to discuss when to use online banks, what those online banks are versus traditional banks, how to open a bank account in Italy, and finally, how to make the best use of currency exchange companies. And speaking of that, later in the show, I am going to be joined by Rachel Canales, who is a currency exchange specialist from GC Partners, and she works with almost everybody from Smart Move Italy team. And she is here to share her expert tips on making the most of your money when moving to Italy. So are you ready? Let's get started. I'm Samantha Wilson, Chief Dreammaker at smartmoveitaly.com, and this is A New Life in Italy, a show where each week I take you behind the scenes of what it's really like to move to Italy, introduce you to some fascinating people, answer your questions, and show you how starting a new life in Bel Paese is possible for you. Well, welcome back. Okay, the truth is that moving to Italy really isn't cheap. And there's going to be a lot of costs to consider, and not just the obvious ones like buying or renting in Italy or paying movers and opening utilities and those kind of small things. But there's other things, little small hidden costs like maybe your visa fees or translation fees, apostille, documents, rental cars, deposits to other things that you want or need, travel, pet travel, furniture, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of expenses that will come up as you move and settle into Italy. So budgeting your move to Italy can not only take some time, but can be one of the most important things that you do. And considering that there is a lot of moving parts, often that one aspect that is overlooked is that conversation of when you have to change your home currency into euros and what it means to your bottom line, what the timing means to your bottom line. When you take a vacation, for example, I think that you might notice that your dollar may not go as far as the euro or as far as that you hoped, but it doesn't really matter when you're on vacation because it's just a big old party anyway, and it's temporary. So often you'll just use your credit card and take the hit on the exchange when the bill comes in. It's just part of what it is. But when you consider moving to Italy, this involves long-term conversion of your funds. Then it's this time that you need to be a lot better planned and even strategic on when and how you change your money, because you can lose a lot of it in exchange if you're not thinking in advance. For example, every single dollar that you earn on your pension or your income or even, your savings account when you start taking the money out of your savings, all of this will eventually need to be converted into euros to use here. Whether you do it right away or later, it doesn't matter. It's going to have to be changed anyway. So because of this, you should start thinking about a long-term plan on how to manage that currency exchange from the very beginning. And that's because exchange rates fluctuate, and they can fluctuate a lot, as some of you can remember. And they are also negotiable, which a lot of people don't realize. And where you get your money from or where you're selling your currency into the euros from place to place can offer you different rates and different fees. So shopping around is super, super important. You can exchange your money from small shops, for example. I'm sure some of you have used them and spent way too much money. Like I'm talking those little tourist centers that are on the streets And they charge a huge fee and really high exchange rates, so they're not the best. Those aren't the ones that you want to be using for your long-term plan on moving to Italy. And also credit cards. People just say, I'm just going to continue to use my credit cards because the banks that I use exchange the rates for me. And of course, this does work, but as a long-term solution, this isn't the best because you don't have as much control and your bank may not, your bank has other fees, it's a business. So it needs to make its money somewhere. It's always better to be planned and move your money into an online bank or even an Italian bank account if you happen to get one. And you do this when the time is right and the exchange rates are favorable or in your favor. And if you have the right advice and you're paying attention to the rates, you don't have to be a currency expert, but at least be mindful of it. You really can save a lot of money. And I think a couple of years ago maybe it was before COVID or right around that time, the US dollar was almost at par with the euro. So it was a huge saving. And a lot of our clients from the US started to convert a bunch of money in forward contracts, which is where you can lock in the exchange rate, knowing, that good exchange rate today, up to, I think, 2 years, knowing that eventually you will need the money because you're going to be moving. And in some cases, I know that some of our clients saved over 80,000 euros, $80,000 actually, 80,000. It's a huge savings just to do a little bit of planning in advance. And if you come from a weaker currency, like my Canadian friends or Australians or even the South African rand, you know that it can take, a big hit on your budget because the currency isn't as strong as a euro. And in Canada, for example, when we moved a long time ago, we lost almost 40% of our income and our savings. 40%, that's a big hit. So it's something you really need to be prepared for and plan for and factor that adjustment into your budget from the very beginning. It's always better to exchange funds and save them into euro currency before you need it. So think of it like a little savings account, but for euros. And you can do this in really small amounts or really big amounts. It depends really on what you can afford at the time. But the point is to just do it if you can. But the big question is, okay, that's great, but where do I put these euros that I'm buying? Because most local banks where you are will not have euro currency. So what people do is they use online international banks like Wise, for example. It used to be called TransferWise, but now it's called Wise. And there's another one called N26. Now, these are online banks. They're not like traditional banks, but they're really useful and are used a lot by expats. They're designed for travelers or expats who are in this in-between stage of having a local bank and having their home country bank who want or need to hold different kinds of currencies in different bank accounts. And like I said, normally in your home country, you can't open an EU currency account or a pound sterling currency account in your local bank. It can only be probably US or Canadian or Australian dollars. Where these online banks, you can do that. In fact, you can have new accounts or separate accounts for tons of different currencies. You could have one for Canadian, one for American, one for Australian, one for British and euros, whatever you need. You can do that. And that's the benefit of these online banks. And how they work is that you deposit funds, like your home currency funds, into your selected account. So for example, you could deposit 100 American dollars into your euro account and take the exchange rate. And I'm just, for the sake of argument, let's say it's 80 euros. And then it just stays in that euro bank account. And they have debit cards and there's options to pay bills and transfer out of that euro account. So for example, if you've done this and you come to Italy even for vacation, you use this debit card from your online bank and just use your euro funds when you're here instead of constantly doing the exchange on the fly every time you buy something. ATM machines have big fees, often really big fees, and also credit cards will end up having fees as well. But if you've already moved your money into euros at a good time when the exchange rate was really good and you're paying with your euro debit card, you can quickly see, how much money you're going to save. Also, in a lot of cases, a foreigner cannot open a bank account in Italy until they've established residency. In fact, it's getting harder and harder to do. Often foreigners who have Italian bank accounts either opened them many years ago or were somehow able and referred to by maybe their local real estate agent because they've bought property. So they've been able to open a bank account in that case. But often now, if you just walk into an Italian bank as a foreigner, a non-resident foreigner, you can't do it. And if you listen to last week's episode on residency, you know that this could take you over a year to do after you've arrived in Italy. So online banks can be a really good solution for your interim or even your travel needs. The one that I always recommend for this online purpose is Wise. N26 is okay, but there's some restrictions on some of their currencies, and most people tend to be happy with, for the basics with Wise. It's pretty good. The cost of these bank accounts can also vary, but they're really not too expensive. They also assist, by the way, with currency exchange. And some people actually have used Wise to transfer large amounts of funds, like to do their property purchase, which we don't really recommend because there's no service behind Wise. It's just an online bank. And although it's pretty safe, if something does go wrong or there's misinformation, it could become a really difficult time and even a nightmare to try and find it. And also Wise, the more money you exchange, the higher their rates are. It can not be really great for really large conversions, really large amounts. So it's not always the best solution. If you're wanting to buy a home, it may feel like it is at the beginning, but again, because currency rates and purchasing money, like different currencies, is negotiable, it's better to shop around and get some estimates. Now, I've put a link of both of these online banks in the show notes. So if you want to, dive down that rabbit hole, they're there for you. Opening a bank in Italy, let's have a little chat about that because, as I said, as a non-resident, it's usually not very easy to do. You might be able to convince a bank to do it if you have somebody walking you in and referring you to them. But even if you open an Italian bank, if you're able to do it and you are not a resident, they can have pretty hefty fees because banking is not free in Italy like it is probably in your home country. And you will almost always pay money, maybe 50 cents or even €1 for every single transaction, which can really add up if you use that debit card a lot. So my recommendation is always wait. You don't need to open a bank account initially, even if you're going to buy a property and you don't live here. There are other ways to pay for the property rather than having to write a check out of your bank account in Italy. And then once you become a resident, you can open your bank account because you really do need one as a resident. You need it to pay your taxes and do a lot of other procedures. But until you're here, you really don't need to do one. Now, the other option is actually the one that goes hand in hand with an online bank, like Wise, is to move your money, use an intermediary. So this is like a currency exchange company where you're going to take your money from your home country, you're going to pass it through the currency exchange company to get the best exchange rate, and then you can dump it into your Wise account because it's already exchanged and put into there. So you're dealing with a better exchange rate. A currency exchange company isn't a bank. They can't hold your money for usually more than 90 days. But what they do is they're that in between, and they offer you a whole lot better in exchange rates and obviously in service. They have things like future contracts, which you can lock in a really good rate for up to, I think it depends on who you're going to, but up to 2 years, which can be a really great deal if you're getting some rates like we had a few years ago. They also offer all kinds of service and assistance. And I think they even do smaller amounts that you can exchange. So, there's options for you. They're not a bank though. So they're just this intermediary that moves your money through. And currency companies can also assist with paying for your property purchase in Italy. Like I said, you don't need an Italian bank account to do it. They can be the one that handles all of the processing, the exchange, and delivering the money to a third party. So it really makes it really seamless and cost effective because there's usually rates that they get that are better than banks or that you can't find online, that you really need somebody to dig around and find the best rates for you. There's more ways to save though. So I thought that I would invite Rachel Canales, who is from GC Partners, who is a global international exchange company. And in my opinion, offers the best service and really exceptional rates. Those savings that I told you about earlier came from GC Partners. Rachel and her team are these dedicated specialists. They actually work with everybody who buys a property through our property company. And a lot of people who move here at least get quotes from them because they're very, very good at what they do. And it's super, super personal, which, I love. So I never hesitate to recommend them. And she's really a lot of fun to talk to. And she has a ton of information. So I'm really happy to invite her here. Hi, Rachel. So happy to have you here on the show today. Well, welcome, Rachel, to the show. I'm so happy you're here because, talking about money is a big deal, obviously for people moving to Italy. And often people forget about the exchange or to budget into the exchanges from their home currency into the euro. And I know that that is your wheelhouse. That's your specialty. So why don't you introduce yourself first? Tell us who you are and where you work and what you do.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me today. It's a pleasure. Well, that's right, Sam. We are specialists in the currency exchange world. Our aim is to simplify and optimize international money transfer process, really, ensuring it's smooth and cost-effective for every single client. We outperform high street banks and understand expats' unique requirements when moving to Italy, and we do it with a personal approach to identify each person's situation.
Mm-hmm. So what do you mean what do you mean by outperform? What does that mean?
So we offer better exchange rates than high street banks, and we offer free accounts, and we don't have any kind of extra bank fees or admin fees, consultation fees. So as soon as someone works with us, and they are instantly saving money on that aspect.
Right. Because other banks, like traditional banks or online banks, have a different set of fees. Or maybe let's start with that. If you can explain to the listeners what the money markets are, what's it all about? Like what makes the money exchange, in a short way, of course, but what makes money exchange rates change?
So that's a really good question, Sam. So basically, the currency exchange rates and the forex market, as we call it, or FX, understanding exchange rates can be a little bit complex. However, with the right knowledge and guidance, it can be a smooth and hassle-free process. So currency exchange rates indicate the relative value of one country's currency compared to another's. And Forex, or the foreign exchange market, is where currencies are traded and exchange rates are determined. Key factors influencing these rates include interest rates set by central banks, economic indicators like inflation and GDP growth, political stability and trade balances, besides market sentiment, speculation, central bank actions, and global events also play a role. So all these factors interact in a constantly changing foreign exchange market. And at GC Partners, we help manage these risks of these fluctuations and offer competitive exchange rates. We provide expert guidance for international money transfers, whether for property purchases, savings, pensions, living costs, or business transactions. We have a special connection with banks, and this is the only thing that we do. So we don't have the overheads of banks. So that means that we can offer a really better exchange rate than any high street banks or any other providers. So we are more competitive because this is the only thing that we do. We are experts in the currency exchange world.
Yeah. Well, the exchange rates, as we've seen in the past, because we've been working together, you work with many of our clients at SmartMove, but in the past, we've seen some pretty favorable rates. For example, I don't know, how long was that? A couple of years ago where the U.S. was almost at par with the US dollar with the euro. It was extremely favorable for, I guess, all of those indicators that you said were all in a line and made it really good for them. So explain to me, I want to get back to that in a second, but explain to me about if if I was wanting to move to Italy. So let's say I'm an American and I want to move to Italy and I'm going to be buying property and I'm just going to be living my life there. I have an income, maybe it's a pension or a job. What should I be thinking about my currency exchange? I know I should be thinking about it, but tell me what really should be on my mind.
So what you mentioned about 2 years ago, we got into a special situation. Sometimes there are some peaks on the market, due to different factors that can kind of like, as I just said, there are many factors. And that time, it was a special situation where the dollar and the euro got almost into parity. And that was based on many factors that had an impact on both currencies. And that was a really good timing for a lot of our clients that were selling dollars and buying euros, because that meant that they were actually optimizing the currency conversion. So, as just mentioned, currency exchange rate conversion is the process of converting one currency into another based on the current exchange rate. For instance, if you have US dollars and need euros, the exchange rate will tell you how many euros you can get for each dollar. These rates fluctuate constantly due to various factors like economic data, interest rates, and geopolitical events. Understanding this process is crucial for anyone dealing with international payments. And planning ahead for your relocation plans to Italy is important. We simplify this process by offering live exchange rates and personalized assistance to ensure you get the best value for your money. We specialized in managing and mitigating these risks associated with exchange rate fluctuations. We provide the most competitive exchange rates and expert guidance to help you transfer money internationally in a safety way.
Yeah, and I think this is important to understand because, just the average Joe Blow, right? The average person doesn't follow exchange rates. I mean, they follow them to the point of, well, look, I'm traveling to Europe for vacation. How far is my dollar going to go? In those small terms, but to be able to monitor on a daily basis or weekly basis, to really, even to be able to project or anticipate future rate changes. I mean, can you do that too? Are you able with your expertise in your company to be able to say, okay, you know what, it looks like maybe in the future, these rates will get better. So you would advise your clients to hold off. I mean, is that what you do?
We provide different kind of transfer options to maximize the conversion of funds, and we are able to explain how is the currency performing, how it's been doing for the past year or 5 years or a month, so you can understand better what's the situation of that currency pair, and we can also mitigate this volatility exposure. We shall bear in mind that exchange rates change every second. But with our live exchange rates, you can lock in a rate immediately, directly with us. So in that respect, we are able to monitor the markets through different kind of transfer options that we offer to our clients. And it doesn't matter what the market does. We are trying to protect yourself as much as you can, or as we can, to get you the best exchange rate possible during the time frame that you will need to do this transaction. Because we have to bear in mind that different clients will have different kind of timelines, amounts. So depending on when you have to make this payment, we can offer the different kind of transfer options. For example, we can offer spot payment. Is for quick transactions, a forward contract to secure today's rate for future transactions. We have the limit order to set your target rate. We have recurring payments for automated regular transactions. And we have rate alerts as well to stay updated on exchange rate moves. So this is something that I can explain a little bit further, each one of them. But it is something to understand that everyone has unique currency needs. So our goal is to make your life easy and ensure you get the most of your money. And
Right.
that's how we can do that. Mm-hmm.
To save money. I mean, that's what the key is. But I think what people misunderstand with currency exchange companies like GC Partners is you are not a bank. You don't hold their money for endless periods of time until they need it. Correct?
Spot on. Yes, we are the middleman,
Yeah.
kind of. So we can get you the best price, the best service, make sure that the funds arrive on time, and avoid any kind of bank obstructions. But we are not a bank. We don't pretend to be a bank either. You have a limited time to leave the funds with us, which is up to 90 days. And it allows you, when you are in the process of buying a property or relocating for your rental property in Italy, it allows you to make the payments that you need during a specific time. Because some clients might think that need to have Italian bank account in place straight away. But with us, you can actually use our services. And then once you are in Italy, or once you have a little bit of more time, you can set up the Italian bank account. We can make payments to third parties on your behalf. So that will be to the real estate agency, to the relocation company, to the lawyer. So we are able to make the payments for you without having the stress to set up the Italian bank account. That sometimes can be a little bit long process and
Right.
tricky. Mhm.
Or even impossible. A lot of foreigners who don't have residency cannot open an Italian bank now. It's getting more and more difficult. But I think your point is really good I know that a lot of our clients exchange their money. They route it. I know it's not the right terminology, but it's like it's routed through you. When they're buying a property, it's routed through you and then to the notaio, who then gives it to the seller at the time of closing. And what they hear sometimes, which is important for listeners to understand, is that you do not need a bank account in Italy to buy a property. You need to pay for the property, but there's other ways to do it besides writing a check from an Italian bank account. And there's a lot of agencies out there that don't understand this. So you can use a currency exchange company. In fact, you should always get a quote to find out what the costs and the rates are going to be, so you can have really, good clarity on how much it's really going to cost you. But you can, like you said, one of your services is you can send the money from your home country through through GC Partners, and then you will forward that money onward once it's been purchased in euros, forward those euros onto the third party, which in this case would be the notaio.
Exactly. All the accounts that you have or the client will have with us, they are under their own name. So it's an account under their own name. So in that respect, we will be doing bank-to-bank transfers, and all the property purchases or rental payments or savings, mortgages, anything like that you have to do, it will go through your account with us. So it's an easy way of making these payments, and there is no need to get a check to pay for the property purchase, for the promissory, or for the deed, because we are able to send the funds directly to the notary or to the real estate agent or the lawyer.
Wherever it has to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everything, I know that your platform is really great because it's all online. So people, I know, create an account and do everything online. But can you talk to me about timing? Because this is really important. How long does does it all take? So I've bought a house, let's say, and I need to send the closing, the amount to pay for the house, in a week from now, or how long should I be sending the money to you to do the exchange in order for it to reach the notaio in time?
As soon as we get the funds from our client, we release the payment instantly. And so basically, usually speaking, it will take about 24 hours. So it's either in a few hours or 24 hours. But we have to bear in mind that the client's bank don't have the same speed as we do. So some of them are really good. So for example, for UK clients, everything is very swift, is very fast. But when it comes from funds are coming from the United States or Canada, the timeline might change because they are different kind of. It's a little bit. It's just a different way of doing the banking process. In the United States, some of them are very old-fashioned. And we had in the past clients saying, like, my bank can make an international payment. My bank but will take 10 days. So for that, we have you covered. We are able to provide a US local bank account. So the client will be making a domestic transfer. You're making a domestic transfer. So that's basically very fast. And then as soon as it gets into our account, Then we send the funds straight away. We convert them and send them to Italy. So that should be quite fast, but at the same time, it might vary sometimes from the client's bank. But usually speaking, it's about 24 hours, 48 hours. Sometimes we even have everything done in the morning, but we have to take into account that not all the um, senders banks are as quick as
Yeah.
the way that we do business.
Right. So people use currency exchange often for large amounts because, the more money you're exchanging, every little bit really adds up really, really fast. It can be thousands and thousands in savings. So if, let's say somebody has, goes to their own bank and their bank tells them that they give them the best or preferred rates, is it still worth their while to check with, another currency exchange person to find out if there's a difference? Or do banks have usually the best rates?
Absolutely. It's always wise to compare. It's always wise to check with us. We are only one email, one call away, and we are always available to answer any questions. But the difference as well is not just about the spot rate, is also about the level of service, the understanding, and also the different kind of transfer options that we are able to offer you, because it's not just on spot transactions. So we are talking about ways of locking in exchange rate, like the forward contract will allow you to lock in today's rate to up to 2 years.
Yeah.
So
And if you
that's
get, yeah, if you have a really good rate and you get that forward, that's huge. That can be a very big savings.
absolutely. So, for example, with the forward contract is one of our superstar transfer options. The forward contract, if you're planning ahead or have a payment down the line, such as the large payment for the completion of your property purchase in Italy, usually there is a time window that you will be aware of between the promissory and the deed contract. So here you might consider planning in advance. And if the market is good and the rate suits you, we can look at doing a forward contract. This means locking in today's exchange rate for a future date. And this rate can be fixed for you for up to 2 years. You can shield yourself from currency fluctuations by taking a proactive approach and securing rates in advance, ensuring predictability and peace of mind. I'm one of those ones. It's like I
Yeah.
prefer to
Well,
like I
it's nice.
don't.
Yeah, especially when people are moving here, there's so many other things to think about. So if they have this part nailed down and they feel good that their rates, they jumped in at a good time, I think it's a great thing to just tick off the list. I've done it. I've taken care of this piece of my planning, and then not have to worry about it. You have 2 years really even to wait for it to get to that, to when you have to use it. So now we're talking about property purchases, but can people just move small amounts of money over? So let's say maybe they already have an Italian bank account, or maybe they have just a small online bank account that they use for general transactions. Can they move money through you at a smaller amount?
Absolutely, yes. So you can use GC partners for small transfers as well. And the minimum is $250. And basically, you can do money for monthly rent, mortgage, schooling payments, anything that is regular. So you are able to do that apart from using us for larger amounts. We offer upspoke recurring payment service, making your monthly payments easier and more cost effective than your bank service as well. Bear in mind that the charges, there are no charges, international charges with us. And sometimes as well, the Italian banks might charge like a receiving fee. So yeah, so we guarantee that that doesn't happen, and we are even more than happy to cover any kind of um, expenses that suddenly come up, because it's our duty to make sure that we have some kind of control, and we have this policy of like no international extra charges will incur in our services. So we are more than happy to cover that at any time for our
Oh, great.
clients.
So some of those sort of hidden fees or those things that might pop up, not from
Mm-hmm.
you, but from other places, might be one of the common mistakes or, overlooked things for expats. But can you tell me, are there any other really common mistakes that people make when they're exchanging, either large or small sums of money when they move?
I would say that not knowing that there are other options like the forward contract, limit orders, like we have recurring payments options. So to go on the internet and just pick up the first option, or to hear about someone using for example, an app, a money app. We all these benefits that we explaining right now are not included within money apps. So we are real people. We understand the situation. There are many anti-money laundering regulations, due diligence. We are talking about making international payments, and there are regulations involved in the process of sending money overseas. So we have that cover. We can actually explain what to do, what we need, and make the whole process much easier, and is peace of mind for you as well, because you might try to do big amount through money apps, and then suddenly they're asking you for things that you don't understand, where we will understand your situation. We will ask you exactly the document that maybe we need as supporting document for the transfer, but we understand and we exactly know what to request, instead of just leaving like a long list of possible documents and making the possibility of being in a delayed of the payment,
I was
which
going to
has a lot
say,
of consequences.
oh, a lot
For
of consequence. Your money's stuck, right? And then when you're dealing in this endless cycle of banks, it can be just a nightmare. And I love the whole idea of planning ahead and trying to solve all the problems before people run into them. So I really like for me, service is always first, right? I mean, there's some things you can do yourself, of course, it's easier and quick. But when it comes to money and when you're thinking of a long-term solution for your new life here and buying property and paying rent on a regular basis and moving your money from where you've earned it, which, I'm Canadian, so this is awful currency for my Canadians out there. I know that it's painful when you have to start doing that exchange. So every tiny little bit counts. So making mistakes can not just be time consuming and frustrating, but really have financial consequences too. So having somebody on your side is really, really a good idea. So, in closing, what would you say? What would you say to somebody who, first of all, where can they get a hold of you? I think I'm going to put I'm going to put your link in the show notes so people can click through there. I guess that might be the easiest way, but it's GC Partners, right? That's where you're from.
Yes, that's right. So GC Partners, currency exchange specialist. I would like as well to highlight that we don't have any kind of fees related to consultation, charges on our service. We are very transparent. Any questions that anybody has about the currency exchange world, you don't have to open an account. We will answer them. So it's always wise to get as much information as you can to make informed decisions. We have zero bank fees, and our accounts are completely free. You can use it as once or as many times as you want, and it is a breeze, as only takes a couple of minutes to do it online. And exploring these options not only ensures better exchange rates, but also minimizes the impact of fees,
Right.
and also providing a competitive
So
edge.
yeah, so they can just go online, create an account, and then if they want to talk to you, they can. If not, it's just at least created for when they need it. I have a link for that actually, so I'll put that inside of our show notes as well, so people can find it fairly easy for you.
And my email address and my phone number. I'm also available on WhatsApp.
Okay.
So I'm just one email away, one call away. More than happy to address any questions. No need to open an account before. If you have any queries, like I said, just shout out at me, and we will address them, and we will try to understand a better. We'll try to understand your requirements as well, and can navigate you through the
Perfect.
currency markets with
Yeah.
confidence.
Well, great. Rachel, thanks so much for coming on today. I mean, it's clear that just a little bit of knowledge and prep can go a really long way in saving a lot of money and avoiding all that extra stress that you just absolutely don't need to have when you come here. So again, I'm going to put the links to Rachel and all her information in the show notes, and you can connect with her directly. Thanks, Rachel. It's been so nice to chat with you again.
Thank you so much, Sam.
For those of you who are preparing your move, I encourage you to be really mindful of the exchange rates, and don't let the currency exchange just be a last minute thought or think, oh, I'll just charge it or use my home debit card because there's no fees, because you still are paying those exchange rates, which might be higher than you want to pay. Again, planning really makes a lot of sense, and knowledge is power. So make sure that you take the time in advance to understand exactly what your money is now and what your money will be when you arrive in Italy. It's time for listener questions. Just like the old radio call-in shows, my team has picked 3 listener questions, all left on our voicemail. I have no idea what these questions are, but I haven't been stumped yet. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, Samantha. My name's Oriana. I'm looking for a long-term rental in Italy, and I'm wondering what the average commission rate is. I want to research a bit first before hiring anyone to make sure I'm not being overcharged as a non-Italian, if that does happen there. Thanks so much.
Hello, and thank you for the question. Renting in Italy usually does come with a fee, yes. And this happens actually all over Europe. If you hire an agency that is doing the search for you or negotiating for you, or you even just call somebody that you've seen an ad online, they will expect typically 1 month rent commission equal to 1 month's rent. And in some cases, it's about 10 to 15% of the total year's rent will be their commission, plus tax, so plus 22%. So it's something that you have to definitely budget. This isn't, by the way, only for foreigners. This is for anybody actually renting in Italy. And it's just a regular commission fee from agencies. If you find a private owner that's willing to rent to you, obviously you don't have to pay these fees, but I do recommend that you have somebody outside of that owner referring to or reviewing the contract, just to make sure that it is, safe for you to sign, especially if you don't understand the laws and Italian. So that fee, you can, a consultation cost you probably 250 to 500 euros.
Hi, Sam. My name's Shelly. I was wondering, can I continue using my American credit cards after I've moved to Italy? Thank you. Looking forward to your answer.
Hi, Shelly. You know what? Your question is really good because people, I think, do what you're saying all the time. When they move to Italy, they just often adopt the same behaviors that they had when they were a tourist. And often this can include just using their, U.S. bank account, using their U.S. debit card and credit cards. But as I spoke about in this podcast, actually, it's an okay thing to do temporarily, but it's always a better idea once you're settled in to open up a Italian bank account and have your own debit card here, just simply because the rates can not always be in your favor. It may feel like it's free, but at the end of the day, when you start comparing the currency differences between what the bank's giving you on your card and what you can get if you move money over on your own, you might be losing out with your bank rate for sure. So make sure you think about that. Now, as I have this answer, I'm also going to mention to you about credit cards. It's not very easy to get a credit card in an Italian bank. You do need to have a credit history and a regular income to prove them. It's a bit of a process, but you definitely, once you can open a bank account, you can open or get like a debit Visa card where it's prepaid and use it that way.
Hi, Sam. Jamie here. I was wondering, we recently had a hiccup in in looking through our paperwork for consulate case, and we've noticed that there is some name discrepancies between my grandmother and my mother, as well as on my grandfather's side as well. They're all Italian, but we're wondering, how long does this typically take to amend and for us to fix things so that we can continue the process? Thank you. Looking forward to your answer.
Well, hi, Jamie. This is a common thing, and mostly it's because when Italians moved and immigrated back into North America, into the US, for example, or even Canada, often what they did is they changed, either the spelling was miswritten, because the writing was different, so their last names were misspelled on some of their documentation, or sometimes they just anglicized their names or changed their names altogether. So there's a few reasons why you might have those discrepancies. The key is that they are discrepancies and they can be fatal to some applications. So it's important that you address them. And depending on the severity of them and what kind of discrepancies they are, and the other documents that support the bloodline, will depend on how much you have to do or where you have to go to fix them. If they're quite severe, depending on where you apply, can also be a problem. For example, if you apply directly in Italy and you have name issues, this is usually the strictest way to apply, so you can't have any discrepancies whatsoever. If you do have them, often what you have to get is a one and the same, which is a court order from usually your home country, where the judge will certify basically that all of those documents equal the same person, and therefore we can use that against a citizenship claim. So again, it really depends on the discrepancies. It's something that you really need to have a professional look at in order to tell you what you can and cannot do and what the severity is and how eventually it could impact your application. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about visas, citizenship, property, and really anything about moving to Italy that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please feel free to send us a voicemail at our website at smartmoveitaly.com/podcast, or just click on the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, you can find all of the resources and the links to the people and the places that I mentioned in this episode inside the show notes. Ciao for now. A New Life in Italy podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created and hosted by me, Samantha Wilson. Production by London Nero, and with special thanks to Ali Frothingham, Sofia Pisana, and the entire team at Sentire. Follow A New Life in Italy wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you're thinking of moving to Italy, whether full-time, part-time, or for a lifetime, come and see me over at smartmoveitaly.com and we'll help you get here and start living your best life. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate and leave a review. It's much appreciated. I can't wait to meet up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao for now.